Welcome back to English 4.0, the radio show. Let's go! Advanced. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the program. Welcome to the advanced portion of class number 180. I'm all alone in the studio today. All alone, no guests. It's just you and I here together. But we'll get started with a little review and practicing more with questions. So today, looking at questions with how much. So we saw this yesterday. How much? How much? So here we're talking about uncountable things. How much water? If I say I drank 2 liters of water after the race, you could say, how much water did you drink after the race? So here I'm giving you the answer, and you're asking me the question that I've already answered. There was 10 minutes left when we left the party. How much time was left when you left the party? Okay, her shoes cost 100 euros. How much did her shoes cost? Or it could be in the present, how much do her shoes cost? Oh, they cost 100 euros. How much? She spent 3 hours on the telephone. That's a long time. How long did she spend on the telephone, or how much time? How much time did she spend on the telephone? We added 50 milliliters of olive oil. How much olive oil did you add? Olive oil, aceite, olive oil. How much? How much olive oil did you add? A lot of recipes call for olive oil. It's interesting. We use the verb, it's a phrasal verb, to call for. With recipes, we say the recipe calls for olive oil. The recipe includes and recommends the use of olive oil. And olive oil, which is good news for Spain because olive oil is really growing in terms of popularity internationally. I know in Canada, the growth rate of olive oil consumption is very strong. Over the last 15 years, olive oil consumption has grown on average about 10% annually, which is quite an impressive growth. So it's great that Spain is an exporter of that. Unfortunately, all the major brands that you see in North America seem to be the Italian ones. So we've got to do something about that. Start exporting more Spanish oil, I think. All right, another example. $200 was spent on gasoline. The question? So the answer was $200. I was stressing that. So the question, how much money was spent on gasoline? Oh, $200. There was a lot of ice left after the rain. I gave this example yesterday. There was a lot of ice left after the rain. And you could say, how much ice was left after the rain? Well, there was a lot of ice left. Yeah, I thought of this example because in Canada, in the wintertime, we get a lot of snow and we get a lot of ice, but then there are days when it warms up a little bit and maybe there's some rain, and the rain kind of washes away the ice. It melts it away, melting away the ice. So very often you'll get a big rainfall and you'll say, well, how much of the ice is left, or how much was melted away? So in this case, there was a lot of ice left, a lot of ice remaining after the rain. Now, the next thing we saw yesterday, we were practicing with little and a little. So here, we would say, there's a little water in the cup. In fact, I do have a cup in front of me, and there is a little water in it. So here I'm saying, oh, there's a little water. There's a little water in the cup, which means un poco de agua, un poco de agua. There's a little water. So here I'm being a bit more positive, saying, don't worry, there's still a little water here. There's a little water. But if I'm being more negative, I would say, there's little water. Without the article, there's little water. Okay? Poca. Hay poca agua. There's little water. So it depends if I want to be positive or negative. Maybe either way there are 10 milliliters there. But if I didn't expect there to be any water, I say, wow, there's still a little water. Or if I thought the glass was full, and then I see the glass and I realize, oh, there's only 10 milliliters. There's little water. There's very little water. Now, is there a lot of ice in Egypt? No. There isn't a lot of ice in Egypt. You could, in fact, say that there is very little ice in Egypt. There's a little time left. Don't worry, there's a little time left. In fact, there's more than a little time left. There's quite a bit of time left in this class. There's little ice in Morocco. Yes, there's little ice in my glass. I had some ice before. Now there's very little ice in my glass. It's almost all gone. It has almost all melted away. So here it's interesting, the difference between little and a little. So again, it depends on whether or not we're reinforcing the idea that it's greater than expected, or maybe a more pessimistic view and sort of less than expected, or a pessimistic outlook on the quantity of something. All right, let's move on now and take a look at our expression of the day. Expression of the day. Okay, our expression of the day. Our expression of the day today is to fit the bill. To fit the bill. Fit, F-I-T. To fit the bill, B-I-L-L. Now, to fit the bill essentially means to meet the requirements of, say, a position or a certain collection of characteristics. So, if we say, oh, well, we're looking for the basketball player. Who's the basketball player in this room? And there's one guy who's really, really tall, maybe 15 centimeters taller than everyone else. You say, oh, well, that guy seems to fit the bill. He's athletic. He looks to be about 25 years old. He's athletic, and he's very, very tall. He seems to fit the bill. So his profile is really within the lines of what we would expect for this. We're looking for a basketball player, and that guy, he really fits the bill. All right, now as we move into Class 180, the new material for this class, we see the phrasal verb here. Well, two phrasal verbs, turn up and turn down. Of course, to turn up can be to increase. We know this already, right? To turn up the volume, to increase the volume, or the power on something, turn it up to increase it. And then to turn it down, bajar, turn down the volume, for example. But we also have two other meanings, one other meaning for each of these phrasal verbs. And starting with turn up, to turn up means presentarse en un lugar, to appear, to basically attend, but to appear for an event or gathering. Okay? So, and then we have, we'll practice with that with some examples. But first I'll mention the meaning of turn down, which is rechazar, to refuse or reject an offer or a proposal, for example. Okay? So turn up, to appear. So these are not opposites. We have turn up and turn down being opposites in the sense of turn up the volume, subir, and then bajar, turn down. But here, turn up to appear for an event, and then turn down to reject someone or something. And I did a show on this on my other program here on Vaughan Radio. It's called The Verb Circus. You might be familiar with it, Mondays and Fridays at 6 o'clock. And let's see, I have lots of questions that I asked on that show. I talked about turning down a job offer, for example. If you were offered a job in Africa, let's say you were offered a job in Nigeria, it was a great job. It is a great job. Let's say, oh, you've got a job offer here to be the general manager of an important company, making good money, but it's in Nigeria and you have to stay there. Would you accept the offer or would you turn it down? It's a great job. What would you do? Would you accept the offer, or would you turn it down? I don't know. I guess it would be a tough decision. I think most of us would rather live in Spain. But if the job is really good, maybe you'd accept it, or maybe you would turn it down. If I asked Shakira out on a date, do you think she would accept, or do you think she would turn me down? I keep sending her emails, and she just keeps turning me down. I don't know why. Would you turn down an offer to be a professional football player? If you were given the opportunity, would you turn down that offer? I wouldn't turn that. I wouldn't turn it down. I certainly wouldn't. I would be glad. I don't think I'm really any good at football, but if I were given the opportunity, I wouldn't turn it down. I would accept the offer. I wouldn't turn it down. I wouldn't turn down the offer. So this is a separable phrasal verb, which means we separate the verb and the preposition, and we put that pronoun, it, turn it down. We put the it in the middle. I wouldn't turn down the offer. I wouldn't turn it down. I asked her out on a date, and she turned me down. She turned me down. Yes, unfortunately. Yes. Now, are you glad that I turned up for the show today? Because if I didn't turn up, well, if I hadn't turned up today, I don't know what would have happened. We wouldn't have had the show. I guess we're lucky. I haven't been sick yet this year because I've been turning up every day to the studio on time for the show. One of these days, maybe I'll get sick and I won't turn up and there won't be a show. Maybe I'll have to call someone else and ask them to come host the show because I'm sick, because I'm ill. Yeah. But I turned up. I turned up on time. I didn't turn up wearing a suit. I wore a suit today to an event, but I didn't. But I'm not wearing a suit now. I took it off. I turned up to the studio quite casual today. Yeah, I've just turned up wearing a normal shirt. I always turn up on time. I don't always turn up particularly early, but I do turn up on time to go on the radio. How about a little bit of translation? Do you like translation, ladies and gentlemen? I think most of you do. Translation. Let's try a little bit of translation. Deberías bajar el volumen de tu teléfono. You should turn down the volume on your phone. Ella me rechazó inmediatamente. Oh boy, it's sad but true, ladies and gentlemen. She turned me down immediately. Ah, yes. ¿Podrías bajar la calefacción, por favor? Could you turn down the heating, please? Could you please turn down the heating? You could say it either way. ¿Te importaría bajar el aire acondicionado? ¿Te importaría? Would you mind turning down the air conditioning? ¿Cuánta gente vendrá al partido? Now here with turn up, we can say how many people will turn up for the game. How many people will turn up for the game? Nunca rechazaría a ella. I would never turn her down. I would never turn her down. All right. Okay, let's move on now. We've seen this, and we'll practice this. We'll review with this tomorrow, but let's move on and take a look at our vocabulary of the day. Vocabulary of the day. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the vocabulary of the day, our 5 words. The first word we have is the puesta del sol. Puesta del sol, which is the sunset. Sunset. Yes. So the sun rises in the east and it sets in the west. You see the sun rise in the morning and you see the sun set in the evening. The sun hasn't set yet today. Not today. Hopefully I'll be out of the studio and I'll be home by the time the sun sets. That would be nice. Espada. Espada. This is a sword. sword with a silent W, S-W-O-R-D. Now, swords, they make very good swords in Toledo, right? Swords. One sword, two swords. Fecha objetivo. Fecha objetivo. This is a target date. Target date. Los medios de comunicación. The media. We say the media. The media. A lot of my students, for some reason, love to say the mass media. But it's, I mean, if it is the collection of all the media, you could say the mass media, but more common just to say the media. The media. We also say the press. The press as well. The media. La Vía Láctea. Just like in Spanish, we say the Milky Way. Láctea, so milky. The Milky Way. The Milky Way. All right, La Vía Láctea. All right, good. Now we have one more thing to do before we finish. Earlier, we were looking at little and a little, so with non-countables. Now, we look at the sister of, or the brother of little and a little. That's right, the countable version, which is few and a few. Few and a few. So when we use few, it's like little in that we're emphasizing a small quantity. There are few Canadians in Madrid. It means not very many. There aren't really very many Canadians. There are few Canadians in Madrid. Whereas if I say a few, I'm saying unos or unos cuantos. So regardless of the number, we're emphasizing that there are maybe more than expected. Yeah, I would say there are few Canadians in Madrid. But there are a few Canadians. If you said, are there any? You could say yes. Yes, there are a few Canadians around. And there are. There's an association of Canadians. They've contacted me, and I've met with them a few times. But there aren't many. I would say there are a few, but there are few as well. There are not very many, really. But there are a few. Mm-hmm. There are a few Canadians in Vaughan Systems. Not very many, but there are a few. Mm-hmm. There are a few books on this table. Not very many, but there are a few books. There are a few books on the table. Yes. And we have one example here, a few examples. Hace tanto calor que hay poca gente en el parque. It's so hot that there are few people in the park. We could also say that there are very few people in the park. Había unas cuantas personas esperando al artista. There were a few people waiting for the artist. Okay, so few and a few. We'll review this tomorrow and look at plenty of new material as well in class number 181. I do hope that you'll join me. We'll be back tomorrow at the same time, same place. As always, I hope you'll join me. Keep studying, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.